Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israel is preventing Iran from taking over the entire Middle East. That's the message from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who warned that the rogue Islamic nation threatens moderate Muslims as well as the United States and Israel. Netanyahu told the Fox News network that Iran's campaign to obtain nuclear weapons must be stopped, and he explained that the target of Tehran's aggression is America and Israel, what the Ayatollah calls the Great and Little Satans. The Israeli premier explained the dangers of Iran's entrenchment in the Middle East and said that its goal is to destroy the Jewish state. Netanyahu stressed that Israel is working to stop Iran and its proxy armies, and by doing so, he said Jerusalem is preventing Tehran from taking over the entire Middle East.
Tensions remain high on the nation's northern border following the discovery of multiple Hezbollah terror tunnels penetrating Israeli territory. Jerusalem officials believe that the Iranian proxy army was planning to carry out cross-border raids to enact the hostile takeovers of Jewish communities and to abduct residents. Army officials revealed that the plan included the intended Hezbollah capture of part of the Galilee Panhandle, particularly the Israeli town of Metula, by cutting it off from Highway 90 in order to inflict great damage on Israel and its citizens.
The outgoing U.S. ambassador to the United Nations expressed her disappointment that a resolution condemning the Hamas terror group failed at the UN. Nikki Haley highlighted the world body's anti-Israel bias, pointing out that the General Assembly has passed over 700 resolutions condemning Israel and not one single resolution condemning Hamas. 87 nations voted in favor of the text, which called to condemn the terror group for its use of airborne incendiary devices and its misuse of resources to construct military facilities rather than for development and infrastructure to benefit the struggling population of Gaza. Despite winning the majority, the vote failed after Bolivia and several other Arab states demanded that it be approved by a two-thirds majority in the General Assembly. President Donald Trump is reportedly considering cutting funds to states that voted against America and Israel on this very important issue.
Israel has joined an international watchdog organization working to cut off the flow of money into the hands of terrorists. The Jewish state is the 38th country to join the task force, which has praised Israel for its efforts toward this objective. The head of the Israeli Justice Ministry's Anti-Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Department, Shlomit Wagman-Ratner, said that Jerusalem's participation in the organization will now allow it to help set international guidelines to stop the transfer of illegally obtained funds used to fuel the violence.
Germany has announced that it will be investing millions of dollars for Arab development projects in Jerusalem. The German representative office in Ramallah confirmed that Berlin will be allocating a total of $62 million in Arab infrastructure projects, $10 million of which will be earmarked for energy programs in the Gaza Strip. The battle for Jerusalem has been fueled by international organizations as well as the European Union and countries who have financed illegal Arab building projects in an attempt to put facts on the ground in the Holy City. Arabs have built concrete megacities without proper infrastructure and sanitation in a race to steal Jewish land and establish Muslim continuity from Ramallah through Jerusalem to Bethlehem.
The European Union has agreed to take steps to better protect Jewish communities. Ministers of the 28-nation body collectively approved a declaration recognizing the increase of anti-Semitism throughout the continent. The statement comes just days after a series of polls reflected serious anti-Jewish sentiments in their countries. Fear is rising among European Jews, with 90% reporting that they feel increased hatred toward them. And a new CNN poll reveals that they are right. Nearly 25% of Europeans believe that Jews have too much power in the field of finance. 1 in 4 said that Jews have too much influence in wars around the world, while 1 out of every 5 Europeans thinks that Jews have too much control of the media and in politics. The spike in anti-Semitism has caused many Jews to hide their identity and even consider leaving Europe. Even though the EU declaration was meant to safeguard Jewish communities and institutions, it failed to condemn the greatest threat facing European Jewry, which is religious anti-Semitism, particularly among Muslims. Due to pressure from France, Sweden, Spain, and the Netherlands, sections of the document defining anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism and condemning anti-Jewish activity among Muslims were omitted.
Israel Aerospace Industries announced the sale of 3 drones to the government of Vietnam for $160 million. The Heron-type unmanned aerial vehicles are able to carry payloads of up to 1/4 of a ton and fly 350 kilometers over 50 hours. The UAVs will be able to take off and land by remote control and are equipped with the ability to operate in extreme weather conditions.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced his selection of Heather Nauert to succeed Nikki Haley as ambassador to the United Nations. Nauert has ascended the ranks of the administration, garnering respect and support from top Washington officials. Just 18 months ago, she was an anchor at the Fox News network and left to serve President Trump as State Department spokesperson and acting Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs.
Christians in Egypt are suffering unimaginable persecution and increasing violence at the hands of Muslims. An article in the Jerusalem Post by Leila Gilbert revealed that Christian women in Egypt are facing an epidemic of abduction, rape, torture, and forced conversion to Islam. Kidnappers are paid up to $3,000 for each Christian girl they abduct and turn over to Islamic groups. The report states that the targeting of Christians is meant to strengthen Islam in Egypt while devastating the ancient Christian community there. Charmaine Hedding, the founder of Shy Fund, an international humanitarian organization, interviewed several Egyptian Christian women who had survived unthinkable abuse by Muslims. She has dedicated herself to sharing the plight of Christians in Egypt and hopes that the world will take action to help them. She commented that perhaps once Western women begin to understand what is happening in Egypt, we will see more help and concern for the victims of religious and sexual abuse there.
Qatar has just given more money to Gaza despite an escalation in violence since its last payment. Hamas wasted its money on terror rather than investing in infrastructure and has been unable to pay Gaza's municipal employees for several months. Doha agreed to pay out $90 million in aid over the next 6 months, but just one day after the first $15 million transfer, Hamas unleashed a barrage of rockets into Israel. The terror group fired more than 400 missiles into Jewish communities and a precision-guided Cornet missile at a bus within a 48-hour period. Many believe the Qatar funding serves as a reward for terror and are demanding that it be halted until Hamas agrees to disarm.
7 Israelis were wounded when Palestinian terrorists opened fire outside a Jewish community in Samaria. A small group of Jews had gathered to light Hanukkah candles in memory of a car accident victim near the bus stop at the Ofra Junction when they were gunned down by Arabs who quickly fled into a nearby village. 2 of the victims were teenagers, and one of them was a pregnant woman who sustained gunshot wounds to her abdomen. Her baby was delivered prematurely at just 30 weeks. Both the mother and the child are fighting for their lives.
An Arab man accused of selling land to Jews was brutally murdered. Ahmed Salama was assassinated near his home in the Arab village of Jaljulia after the Palestinian Authority alleged that he engaged in such real estate deals. We have reported on the abduction and imprisonment of several Arabs charged with violating PA law forbidding land transfers to the enemy Israel, which can be punishable by death. In recent weeks, an American citizen was arrested and incarcerated, and 2 Arab men were sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for involvement in land sales to Jews.
Israeli sappers have cleared thousands of landmines surrounding 3 churches in the area where some Christians believe Jesus was baptized. A spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Ministry's demining department said the land surrounding 3 churches belonging to the Greek Orthodox, Franciscan, and Ethiopian denominations had been cleared of explosive ordinances that were left behind after wars with Jordan. Marcel Aviv said the clearing and reopening of the land and the opportunity to return it to its religious guardians is a project in which we take great pride.
The Israeli capital of Jerusalem has been recognized as the world's fastest growing tourism destination. According to a report released by Euromonitor International, visitation to the Holy City will have risen 38% this year. The London-based market research company stated that the increase is due to relative stability and a strong marketing push. The boom is happening despite an overall downturn in the Middle East and North Africa. Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics reported that 389,000 people traveled to the Jewish state this past month, marking a 9% increase over the same time last year and 35% more than in November of 2016. The country's tourism minister said the record-breaking momentum is expected to continue and that he believes at least 4 million tourists will have come to Israel by the end of 2018.
A group of faithful Jews have dedicated an altar outside of the Temple Mount. The structure was built exactly as the Bible specifies. It's made of bricks and wood and not of stone hewn by iron instruments. The altar itself weighs about 4.5 tons and the attached ramp weighs another 2 tons. The group did not perform an animal sacrifice on the altar. Rather, they gave biblical offerings of oil, grain, and wine produced to the standards detailed in the book of Leviticus. Professor Hillel Weiss, the founder of the Temple in Zion organization, raised the money for construction of the altar. He quoted the prophet Isaiah at the dedication ceremony, saying, "Their offerings and sacrifices shall be acceptable upon my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples."
A delegation from the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus was just in Brussels for an event at the European Parliament. The gathering was hosted by MEPs Bastian Belder, Arne Grika, and Branislav Skripek. Meetings focused on threats to European Jewry, the anti-Semitic basis of the BDS movement, and economic cooperation with Israel. The event's organizers included the European Christian Movement, the European Coalition for Israel, and the Israel Allies Foundation, who lauded the impressive turnout they saw as a strong statement of support for Israel. Member of Knesset Yehuda Glick and KCAC Director Josh Reinstein attended the conference and praised the efforts of Christians in the European Union to support the Jewish state. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here on a beautiful sunny day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Miriam Lautner. She's the founder and CEO of Curious. Miriam, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the company Curious.
So Curious is a educational game and toy company that I created with 3 other moms because I felt like kids were overexposed to iPads and to technology and that they didn't have enough face-to-face communication and enough time with their peers. So it's a traditional toy company. We make traditional card games, telescopes, and we're about to come out with another series of STEM products.
You know, you're a resident of the South here in Israel that's under a constant threat of rocket attack and rockets coming out of Gaza. And recently you made a big impact on your comments on what's happening to children when it comes to terrorist balloons. Can you tell our viewers a little about what are the terrorist balloons and what's happening?
Sure. So what happens is that as Gaza, and I do believe they suffer, let's be very clear, as Gazans suffer, they look for other ways to terrorize our children because they feel like they need to get the word out as well. And the situation is untenable on both sides. So they have resorted to taking the helium, which is really for medical purposes, and instead filling colorful balloons, attaching it to either explosives or to incendiary devices. So they've started, I believe, 600,000 fires in the South, and explosions happen all the time. So I recently had to tell my kids, hey, listen, if you happen to see balloons on the road, you can't touch them, don't pop them, stay away from them and call the police because they might be explosive devices.
This seems completely unsustainable. You know, you have children running to bomb shelters because of missiles. Now they can't play with balloons. What kind of impact is this having on the children?
So it's hard for me to say what kind of long-term impact it has. It definitely has an impact where even when we go and visit my family in the States, if my kids hear a car backfire or if there's an ambulance siren, all of a sudden, you know, you see them freeze in fear. And when my kids go to a new home, they always ask, so where's the bomb shelter? That's the first question. You know, their eyes are scanning the area looking for that specific type of door and that protected area because they always want to know, where am I going to be safe?
Since the disengagement, we've seen thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of rockets rain down on Israel. What do you think is going to happen in the future with that generation as they become adults? These children lived under rocket fire for over a decade now.
Right, so it's 13 years. The disengagement was 13 years ago. It was 2005, the summer of 2005. And I think you're going to see a generation of children who are going to say, enough is enough. You know, we are victimized in the media constantly. We're told that Israel is the aggressor, that, you know, we commit horrible atrocities on the Gazan border. And yet, if you think about it, we're one of the strongest armies in the world. So if in 13 years we haven't decimated Gaza, there's a reason for it. You know, we're defending our border. It's a defensive action. That's all we want is peace. 13 years ago, the world asked us and said, give up Gaza and you'll get peace. And we gave up Gaza. We destroyed communities. We pulled everything out. There isn't a Jew left in Gaza, and yet we have no peace.
Well, why do you think the government of Israel isn't taking a stronger hand? I mean, they should, in my opinion, turn Gaza into a parking lot by now. What's holding it back?
So I think it's a matter of world opinion, and I also think that it's Israel. It's our essence. You know, as many times as we get hit, and as many times as we're attacked, and as many times as we have to take these defensive measures, we're still giving power. We're still giving water. We're still giving aid to Gaza every single day. 18-wheeler trucks roll past my house on the way to the Gazan border. You know, we're a kind people. We don't want anyone to suffer, and yet, you know, we're in this situation where it seems like there's no end in sight, because we keep giving and they keep taking, and we keep offering and they keep, you know, stealing.
Yeah, I heard a statistic that 210,000 children stay home from school when there are rocket fires in the south. What can you explain, and you have 2 children yourself, what do they do all day when this is happening? What do they think about? Are they in the bomb shelters? Do they go on with their daily lives?
So, I mean, you have a situation where most of us work, right? So it's not like we can just take off the day. We don't get free vacation days from our jobs in order to be with our children. So typically they try to organize activities. You see a lot of grandparents posting online, hey, you know, there was rocket fire last night. My kids don't have school, or my kids don't have daycare. There's no childcare. There's no kindergarten. What should I do with my kids today? Many people offer up their homes in Jerusalem and in other parts of the country because they want people to feel safe. But every time it's kind of a new situation. I remember in 2008-9, during that war, it's hard to remember all the wars at this point, but during that war, my twins were babies, and because I have 2 kids right on either side of the car, I couldn't actually get them out of their car seats in 45 seconds. And so I didn't leave my house for almost 3 months because I had no way to guarantee myself that in the 45 seconds I have to get to my bomb shelter, I could get my kids out of the car safely and get them on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of people in Israel feel helpless, that there's nothing they can do. You know, people who don't live in the South, who see it on the news and feel for the communities in the South. What can the average person do to help in the situation? Is there anything they can do?
So I think there's a lot of things we can do. I think the first thing is social action and media. You know, many times you see something online and you think, oh, I'm not going to bother arguing, or I'm not going to bother posting, you know, an alternative view, or I'm not going to bother even commenting because what's my voice? So recently I posted a Facebook post when the issue with the balloons happened. It was shared 3,000 times, you know, within 2 days, because I think that our voices matter. And I think that when you see an opportunity to make change, it could be social media, it could be a donation, it could be just sending messages of care and concern. But I think not doing anything is the issue, right? I think we all have the opportunity to do something.
You mentioned that some families in the center and the north are hosting families from the south to come and take a break from that day-to-day trauma. Is that working? Are people using that opportunity? Are people coming to stay in the north, or are they like, look, this is my home, I'm going to stay here?
So I think you see 2 sides of that. I think in many communities in the South, you see families that are like, this is my home, I live on the border, this is what I signed up for, and I accept it. And there are other communities or other families where they need a break. And so yes, they do take advantage of it, and it's a beautiful thing. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to see families opening up their homes and, you know, taking strangers in, and that's what community is. That's what Israel is.
Miriam, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
So my message would be, just listen with your whole heart and recognize, one, the beauty of Israel, and see what's here, see like the real Israel and the people that are here. We want good for everyone. We want to share medicine and technology and opportunity. That's really all we want. So, you know, when you're asked to say, do you support Israel or do you support the Palestinians? To me, it's not like an either or, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to say, what are these people giving and what are these people giving? When the message is love and hope and health and care and opportunity versus a message of death and destruction, I think we can all see that there's one opportunity that you have to really pursue and support.
Well, it says in the Bible that if you were faced with the opportunity to choose life or death, choose life. Thank you, Miriam, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Greg Mazel, the Director General of Karen Hayesod, United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Karen Hayesod is responsible for bringing home tens of thousands of new immigrants, Olim, every year. Every story is unique. Enjoy as we hear one of these incredible success stories.
When the parents of 8-year-old Robert Uman decided in 1938 that their family must leave Germany for a new beginning in New York, little did they know that it would save their lives. Remarkably, the decision also laid the foundations for their son to flourish in the first Jewish state in 2 millennia, built with the determination of institutions such as Karen Hayesod. Here, Robert Uman would become an Israeli hero who would change the world of mathematics. By 1938, the dark clouds had gathered over Germany. Jews had been ousted from every facet of public life. They'd become persecuted outcasts. Outright violence against Jews was common. The Uman family fled for the United States just 2 weeks before the infamous Kristallnacht pogrom. They were spared the full horrors of Nazism, which would soon unfold. In their new home, Robert Uman's parents struggled to make a living, but Uman grew up a proud Jew, a scholar of the Hebrew Bible. At the same time, Robert soon emerged as a gifted mathematician. In 1955, he received a prestigious PhD in mathematics from MIT. By this time, thousands of miles away, the impossible dream had become a reality. The State of Israel was born. From the ashes of the Holocaust, an ancient nation returned to its biblical home. With the help of Karen Hayesod and its supporters, the Jewish people built its first independent state in 2,000 years. Robert Uman simply could not resist the pull of history.
Israel is a place where Jews have looked to this for centuries, and this is our fulfillment. So the news that we are gradually getting to be stronger and stronger in Israel vis-a-vis the diaspora, number-wise, that's good news. That's wonderful news.
Uman made his new home in the land of his forefathers, the land of Israel. As Jeremiah had predicted, your children shall return to their borders. Uman's outstanding intellectual ability did not go unnoticed, and he immediately joined the mathematics faculty at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He has been there ever since. Over the decades, Uman's reputation blossomed into one of the world's outstanding mathematicians. Prestigious prizes and professorships followed. But in 2005, Robert Uman received the ultimate award, the Nobel Prize. Almost overnight, Uman became a household name. His success demonstrated Israel's important contribution to the world. It showcased the Hebrew University, a world-class institution built with the help of Karen Hayesod. The small boy who fled Germany had shown that the Jewish people had triumphed. Uman was an Israeli hero. But despite the accolades, Uman remains first and foremost a proud Jew, even when the Nobel Prize is on offer. With the Nobel Awards ceremony scheduled just minutes after the Jewish Sabbath ended, Uman insisted on first completing his prayers before hurrying to take a seat just 90 seconds before the King of Sweden's arrival. Uman's remarkable life story is a powerful symbol of a proud nation reborn, a people that has never lost faith. And it is a reminder of Zechariah's prophecy, "Not by might and not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord." Now is your opportunity to continue this holy legacy by assisting additional Jews to make a new life in the land of their forefathers.
Join Keren HaYesod in celebrating Israel's 70th anniversary by donating only $70 a month to help fund Aliyah. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The Palestinian Authority has increasingly achieved state-like status within the UN. Sometimes it's referred to as Vatican-like status, sometimes referred to as Swiss-like status within the United Nations. United Nations bodies and countries which support granting the Palestinian Authority such a status say that it's largely a symbolic move that is not designed to threaten the state of Israel. They are categorically wrong. The Palestinian Authority is striving to achieve this status not for innocent reasons, not even to achieve a better two-state solution or peace arrangement. The Palestinian Authority is attempting to achieve this state-like status in order to take Israel down. Why does it want the status? Because the Palestinian Authority wants to sue Israel in the International Criminal Court for war crimes. And in order to sue Israel for war crimes in the International Criminal Court, the Palestinian Authority must have the status of a state. Only a state can sue another state within the International Criminal Court. And what does the Palestinian Authority hope to achieve in these lawsuits? Again, not a better peace arrangement, not even a two-state solution. The Palestinian Authority wants to boycott the state of Israel. It wants to sanction the state of Israel. It wants to eliminate Israel's legitimacy to defend itself or even to exist as a sovereign Jewish state. Far from being an innocent diplomatic maneuver, far from being a symbolic gesture, the Palestinian Authority's attempt to achieve state-like status within the UN presents a long-term and serious strategic threat to Israel's security and ultimately even to our existence.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.